Good morning. How are you today? Hope you're enjoying the spring weather and hopefully you don't have allergies. My eyes are like almost swollen, swollen shut, but oh, I still love the weather. That's the problem. I just can't stop from being out in it. But it's spring, springtime's approaching. We're fixing to have a time change. And it got me to thinking about last March. Woo. So when I believe the shutdown happened and the toilet paper ran out, and then it got me to thinking about this week's lesson and how, well, you heard when people had the shutdown how some people became couch potatoes. And anyway, I got a confession. I don't think I became a couch potato because I kind of used my well, I kind of got hooked to detective shows. And it seemed to be old detective shows like, well, all of them were from either BBC or Masterpiece Theater. They all had the English or the British accent. And for some reason, I was attracted to those. But I would bribe myself. I'd try to watch, half the show. And then I would turn it off, and if I got my kitchen cleaned or if I got all the laundry done or whatever, then I would reward myself by coming to watch the other one. But I got so addicted to them, I still feel that way. And I would watch, if I could find another one, because I think I about watched them all, I'd watch it. And I thinking about that and why, I just believe, especially all of you listening, and many, many more that are not listening, that we all want justice. We want the guilty punished and the innocent set free. And preferably in a 60-minute time slot, right? But reality rarely plays out like our favorite detective show. And it is a hard pill to swallow as we read and we study about Jesus and his many trials. Have you ever realized how many trials? Now this focuses on one, last week maybe another, but when you get the Gospels combined, they were quite a bit. So one, we know from last week that he appeared before Annas. And Annas handed down no verdict at all, passing Jesus up the political ladder. Two, he appeared, as we studied last year in Mark, he appeared before the Sanhedrin. And the trial was a circus marked by conflicting testimonies, and all the lies that were told during that just could not hold up. So three, he appeared before, as we've already heard, Caiaphas. He was the reigning high priest. Well, he remained silent throughout all the questioning until they asked him if he was the Messiah. And he said, I am. And in that trial, Caiaphas claimed him blasphemy. So four, then he appeared before Pilate, as we just studied this week, a Roman governor who knew the religious leader and had apparently been targeted through jealousy. But they stirred up the crowd against him, and then Pilate released Barabbas instead. Five, he appeared before Herod. Now this is in Luke 23, and all he wanted was a dog and pony show, not a trial. And when Jesus refused to perform miracles, he was sent back to Pilate. So six, he appeared before Pilate again. He recognized Jesus' innocence, Roman, but recognized Jesus' innocence, but feared his release meant political suicide. So Pilate distanced himself from the guilty verdict, so to speak, in front of everyone, and this is in Matthew. He said, he washed his hands in a bowl and said, I wash my hands of this man's blood. That is 6 trials. And I got to tell y'all, we cannot wash our hands of this. Now again, dividing it up, three 3 different sections. As we finish out chapter 18, the question is asked from Pilate, or is it a statement? What is truth? And I said, is it a statement? Because it seems through this, Pilate is going back and forth trying to figure out what the truth is. What'd you do wrong? What are you accused of? What's the crime, Jesus? And then he goes to them asking them the same thing. And of course, there, no truth going on with the religious people. No truth at all. They won't even kind of avoid the question and saying, why would we bring him to you if he were not doing evil, or if he were not a criminal in some versions? But the thing is, there's no truth going on here except when Jesus speaks. Is Pilate really looking for the truth, or just looking for a way to please his conscience and please the crowd? Have you ever heard the statement that you wouldn't know the truth if it was standing right in front of you? Your mom ever told you that when you were a teenager? I don't know. Have you ever heard of it? I wonder if it come from this scene. Jesus told Pilate in verse 37, everyone who is of truth listens to my voice. And then he walks away, Pilate, and says, what is truth? If he had listened to Christ's voice, he would know the truth. He was the way, the truth, and the life, and is standing right there in front of him. Pilate washed his hands of the truth, because that's not really what he was looking for. And then second, as we approach chapter 19, verses 1 through 11, truth is, Mr. Governor, you have no authority at all over the accused, even though he told him he did. Pilate wanted to believe that he was in control. He wanted to be in control. But you know, it seemed like he had a hard time being in control. He could not control the crowd like he wanted to. It seemed that he went to extreme measures to please them, but yet not have death of this innocent man on his hand. I wondered, from different things we read, if he had an inkling that he just very well might be a God in his mind, the God in ours, we know he is. But you know, it made me wonder when he sent him out to get him flogged, which is a horrible beating with a whip. Y'all know all the things that happened to him, and the crown on his head and the mocking, and then he brings him before the crowd. I think he brought him before the crowd then, and he claimed his innocence then, saying, okay, look what we done. Shouldn't this please you? But it didn't. The crowd grew and grew and grew. But he threatened Jesus when he wouldn't answer him and said, don't you know it is in my power to crucify you or to save you? You know, sometimes we want to be in control, or we think we are, or we fall out and die thinking that, well, the government's got all the control, or our circumstances have all the control. We need to remember that we are not ever meant to be in control. That circumstances do not control us. Rulers do not control us unless, as Jesus said, have been given from above. They don't control us, but the only way those can happen is if they're given from above, verse 11. We don't want to wash our hands of these words that Jesus spoke. His Father, our Father, is the one with the perfect plan, and it just makes sense to let him have the reins. And then 3:19, the truth is, Pilate, sin cannot be erased with a simple washing of your hands. As I mentioned earlier, Matthew 27:24. Well, that verse is when Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere with the crowd, but that a riot was starting instead, and he took some water, washed his hands in front of the crowd, and said, I am innocent of this man's blood. Pilate had no idea the high cost, the high price of sin, and the bond to get you out from under that was right again in front of him. Pilate's brief appearance in Scripture is full of tragedy. He ignored his conscience. He disregarded the good advice of his wife. Do you know that in Matthew, his wife also sent word to him that said, "Do not have anything to do with this innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him." But he chose his political career over justice and over truth. Pilate, you simply cannot wash your hands of this. So let's go back to the beginning, when I told you about the 6 trials that are listed in the Bible. So 6 times Jesus was brought before judges who were not interested in the truth. 6 times he appeared before officials on trumped up charges and listened to people shout lies and false accusations at him. Not only that, but even after Pilate became convinced that Jesus was innocent, he still passed a sentence on Jesus as if he were guilty. Lady Justice would have been mortified. I am mortified. I'm tempted to assume Pilate's position, to simply wash my hands of all these shenanigans and shake my head at the justice system, point my finger at the justice system that is clearly broken. But it was not the justice system that failed Jesus. It was me. Any judge or justice or jury looking for guilt could find the evidence stacked, overwhelming against me. I am a sinner, guilty of falling short of the glory of God. That's in Romans 3:23. It says so. We cannot simply wash our hands of the truth that Jesus, who never sinned, took the punishment of our sin. He absorbed all those accusations so the enemy could no longer accuse us. Now, I'm going to read that again in my notes. It says, he absorbed all the accusations so the enemy could not accuse us. Don't let him start accusing you. He will. Don't let him. He can't really do it anymore because it's just lies. He's telling you. Jesus endured the guilty verdict 6 times so we could be declared not guilty for eternity. What Jesus offers us is something far beyond what his kangaroo court ever imagined. He offers us radical, unmerited, irreversible redemption. And we don't want to wash our hands of that. God, thank you for your perfect plan. Jesus, thank you for your willingness and obedience. Thank you for the victory that we have. Thank you for the freedom now that we have. Thank you that Satan can't hang over our head the sins that you've already paid for, because they have been paid for. Father, help us to trust you. Help us not to want to be in control. Help us to listen to you so we can hear the truth. Sometimes we might not want to, God, but help us to do so. And help us not to think that sin is just something so light that it can be washed away by water. The only way it could be washed away was at the high price of what you did for us. We are grateful. And I want to live in victory because you've bought it, you've paid for it for us. In your name, amen. I pray that you will live in victory as well. Have a great week. See you next week.